Welcome to Psych Prep Quiz, where we help you master the psychology with DSM-5-TR-based case studies and exam questions. You'll have 10 seconds to answer each question, so read carefully, choose the best answer, and let's begin. A 4-year-old child has delayed speech, poor eye contact, limited social interaction, and repetitive hand flapping beginning before age 2. Which diagnosis is most appropriate? D. Autism spectrum disorder. A 7-year-old struggles with reading accuracy and fluency despite normal intelligence and adequate schooling. What is the most likely diagnosis? A. Specific learning disorder. A 9-year-old child has an IQ of 60 with significant limitations in communication, social skills, and daily living abilities present since early childhood. Which diagnosis best fits? C. Intellectual disability. A 5-year-old has delays across multiple developmental domains, but standardized IQ testing is not yet reliable. Which diagnosis is most appropriate? D. Global developmental delay. An 8-year-old frequently interrupts, cannot remain seated, and has difficulty sustaining attention across settings for more than 6 months. Academic skills are age-appropriate. What is the most likely diagnosis? B. Attention deficit/hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. A child has normal intelligence but struggles with conversational turn-taking, understanding social rules, and interpreting nonverbal cues, with no repetitive behaviors. Which diagnosis is most appropriate? B. Social pragmatic communication disorder. A child has normal intelligence but struggles with conversational turn-taking, understanding social rules, and interpreting nonverbal cues, with no repetitive behaviors. Which diagnosis is most appropriate? C. Developmental coordination disorder. A 10-year-old repeatedly pulls out their hair, resulting in noticeable hair loss, and reports difficulty resisting the behavior. Which diagnosis is most appropriate? B. Trichotillomania, hair pulling disorder. A child displays repetitive hand-waving and body-rocking behaviors beginning in early childhood without social communication deficits. What is the most likely diagnosis? A. Stereotypic movement disorder. A 7-year-old has sudden, rapid, recurrent motor and vocal tics that have persisted for more than 1 year and change over time. Which diagnosis is most appropriate? D. Tourette's disorder. A 6-year-old child speaks in single words, struggles to form sentences, and has difficulty understanding complex instructions, but social interaction is age-appropriate. Which diagnosis is most appropriate? B. Language disorder. A 9-year-old child has difficulty sitting still, blurts out answers, and frequently interrupts peers. Symptoms are present at home and school and began before age 12. Which diagnosis is most likely? C. Attention deficit/hyperactivity disorder. A child has normal intelligence but consistently struggles with math calculations despite adequate instruction and intervention. Which diagnosis best fits? D. Specific learning disorder with impairment in mathematics. Hey, quick pause. If you're studying psychology, social work, or counseling, this channel is for you. We break down DSM-5 topics, multiple choice questions, and case studies to help you pass exams and actually understand psych. Hit subscribe so you don't miss new quizzes every update. Now, let's get back to the question. A 5-year-old child rarely responds to their name, avoids eye contact, and does not engage in pretend play. Repetitive lining up of toys is observed. Which diagnosis is most appropriate? C. Autism spectrum disorder. A 7-year-old child has frequent blinking and throat-clearing noises that have lasted for 8 months. Which diagnosis is most appropriate? B. Provisional tic disorder. A child with normal intelligence repeatedly bangs their head when frustrated, beginning in early childhood, causing minor injuries. Which diagnosis best fits? C. Stereotypic movement disorder. A 4-year-old child shows delays in speech, motor skills, and social development, but is too young for reliable standardized testing. Which diagnosis is most appropriate? D. Global developmental delay. A child can speak fluently but has difficulty waiting their turn in conversation, interpreting sarcasm, and adjusting communication to social context. No repetitive behaviors are present. What is the most likely diagnosis? B. Social pragmatic communication disorder. A 10-year-old child has both motor and vocal tics that have persisted for more than 1 year, with symptoms waxing and waning. Which diagnosis is most appropriate? D. Tourette's disorder. A student has difficulty copying from the board, organizing written work, and completing tasks requiring fine motor coordination, despite normal intelligence. Which diagnosis best fits? C. Developmental coordination disorder. A 6-year-old child has poor eye contact and limited peer interaction but shows no repetitive behaviors, has age-appropriate language, and demonstrates good imaginative play. Which diagnosis is most appropriate? B. Social pragmatic communication disorder. A 9-year-old child has an IQ of 68, but functions independently in daily living, communicates effectively, and performs age-appropriate self-care. How should this be interpreted? See, IQ alone is insufficient for diagnosis. A 4-year-old child shows delays across multiple developmental domains, but the clinician suspects autism, Standardized testing is inconclusive. Which diagnosis should be used for now? D. Global developmental delay. A child with ADHD shows poor academic performance due to inattention, but adaptive functioning improves significantly when structure and medication are provided. What does this suggest? D. ADHD without intellectual disability. A 10-year-old child presents with repetitive motor movements that began in early childhood and worsen during stress but can be voluntarily suppressed for short periods. No vocal tics are present. Which diagnosis is most appropriate? C. Persistent motor tic disorder. That's the end of today's quiz. Count your score, let us know in the comments how you did, and we'll see you in the next update. Bye for now, preppers.